Welcome back to Booze and Rocks, where we make cocktails for everyone. My name's David Edwards, and it's great to have you here today. We are going to make a Bourbon Old Fashioned. Now, Old Fashions have been around for a very long time, and they fit the template first laid out as a cocktail in 1806. That being spirit, sugar, water, and bitters. One of the things you'll notice I don't have here is water because I choose not to use water in my Old Fashions. Now, one of the reasons I do that is because I want the bourbon to speak for itself. And that's why I suggest you get a good bourbon. Because if you wouldn't sip it, you wouldn't want it in this cocktail. It's that simple. But before we get into making it, let's talk about the ingredients. The first thing we need is a good bourbon. In this case, I'm using Four Roses single barrel bourbon. It's a Kentucky straight bourbon that's 100 proof or 50% ABV. The next thing you need is a good aromatic bitters. And for that, I'm using Angostura bitters. Next, you'll need sugar. In this case, I'm using turbinado sugar cubes. Simple, easy to get, no problems there. And last but not least, you're going to need some orange for your garnish. Let's get into it. Now, this is a build in your glass cocktail. So what we're going to do is put this in a classic rocks glass. Simple, easy, harkens back to old days when you just had a nice glass. So the first thing you're going to use is your sugar. In this case, I'm using turbinado sugar. You could use brown sugar, you could use white sugar. You could even choose to use a simple syrup. Now, if you do use a simple syrup, you're not going to get that same weight of history or grit, but it's not really a grit, trust me. But you'll also add in a little bit of dilution, and you need to actually account for that. So stick with your sugar cube when possible. The next thing you're going to do is grab your aromatic bitters of choice. In this case, I'm using Angostura bitters, and we're going to use 4 dashes, which seems to be about a great sweet spot. Go up to 6, 3, 10, totally up to you. It's your cocktail after all. All right, and now you can see with 4 dashes of the bitters that we actually have a fair amount of fluid in there that's being absorbed by the sugar. So grab your muddle, and now what you want to do is you want to compress this and break this down, and you're going to move it around and squeeze it and compress it until it actually becomes a lot like a slurry, very much like that. You don't want something super gritty because you want it to actually be able to be absorbed by all the ingredients. Next, you want your bourbon of choice. In this case, I said I'm using Four Roses single barrel, which is a 50% ABV. And you could use something like a Woodford, a Buffalo Trace, or even, I don't know, something Kentucky and straight that you really like, because technically a Kentucky straight bourbon is bourbon. And that just sounded really silly when I said it that way, but you need 2 ounces or 60 milliliters. So what we'll do now is we'll grab our ice cube. Now you could use small cubes if you want. In this case, I'm using a large cube, and you just want to add this in like so. Use your spoon, okay? There you go. And now that you've got it in there, what we want to do is just spin this 20 times. And what we're doing is we're just reaching a dilution point, which is just shy of what we want. So if you're using small cubes, it'll dilute faster. Okay, give that a bit of a test. Definitely in the right spot. Now the reason I say you want to stir it to just shy, and the reason for that is because when you pick the glass up and your glass starts to heat the drink up and it starts to melt the water and the ice, what'll happen is you'll have this curve of flavor. You'll get little bits of sweetness up front, then it'll dilute out and soften it, so you'll get a totally different drink over time as you sip it. Now grab your orange and your wide peeler, cut a swath directly above your drink. Then you just want to express it in there like so. Give it a bit of a rub around everything, because one of the other things is when you put the drink down, you want to be able to smell the scent of orange directly on your hand. It gives you another dimension to your drink. And you just want to slide it in here like so now that you've done that. And now you have a Bourbon Old Fashioned. Oh yeah, the bourbon shines. The Four Roses being a higher proof bourbon, gives you just that little bit more kick, but it's not a high ethanol kick. Single bourbon, I love it. You could use for a barrel proof, but again, use whatever bourbon you would drink with. Oh. What I am going to do is going to put the ingredients and the method of how to make this in the description down below. And if this is your first time to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell notification. That way, every time we put out a new cocktail, you will be notified. And if you'd like to help support the channel, please check us out at patreon.com/booze on the rocks, because every little bit helps us to bring these videos to you. You have a great afternoon.